The impact of the global fall in oil prices has continued to bite harder on the resources of oil-producing countries, especially with the oil production cuts agreements between OPEC Plus partners. Now, this is making countries source ways to cushion the effect on their economy. The program is a portfolio on 80 News 24, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria. I'm Chibobi Walter, and today we shall focus on the new normal for small businesses in the face of surviving the coronavirus. Welcome back. Since the outbreak of the coronavirus on a global scale, countries have evolved ways to sustain their economy and ensure the protection of the real sector. Now, this, however, has affected the main fabrics of the functionality of micro, small and medium enterprises around the world, especially with the introduction of social distancing, wearing of face masks and much more as safety measures. Now, for businesses to survive, the idea of working from home, or WFH, has become a new normal. And just recently, Twitter and some other companies announced their intention to make more of their staff work from home on a more permanent basis. And this has been a tale of success stories for some companies and small startups, but spells doom for some other businesses that cannot be moved online. Now, what then is the future for such businesses? All right, so we have with us in the studio a business consultant and a startup expert, Ubianefo Esimai, to look at these issues and how Nigerian businesses, can take advantage of the opportunities. Welcome to the portfolio.
Thank you very much.
All right, so can you give us an idea of what this new normal is, this new business model?
All right, I have to talk with this on based on protocol. But then to go straight to the point, the new normal is, the idea I can give is how it was in the 1800s, going into the 1900s, when you had the typewriters, and people were using the typewriters for basic documentations, and that was the norm. But then when the computers started, or when it was invented, it was the mainframe computers. But then when the personal computers started coming on board, there was a shift. And it was a global shift. And this shift necessitated that people migrated from the typewriters to the computers. So this is especially, and this is what's about to happen. And if you recall, when this migration happened, we didn't go back to typewriters again. I mean, once there's a shift in the world economy or there's a revolution globally, the new normal takes over. It doesn't go back to what it used to be. And that is exactly what's about to happen now. There's been a preparation since the internet revolution happened in the 2010, the internet revolution happened, and we are in the connected revolution because the infrastructure to synergize people from different locations has already been put in place. Now, the people that would be impacted much are the people in our part of the divide, in the African region, where we haven't really started maximizing the use of technology. Now, we don't have a choice than to migrate. But then the migration doesn't have to just be in learning how to use the new system. It's in the psychological understanding, the coming to know that you're not going back to what it used to be. So once we have that at the back of our minds, it will enable us to say, hey, do you know what? There's no going back. Let me learn how to move with the new normal. All right? Take, for instance, those who refused to do it with the typewriter became jobless when the computers took over. And then you now had to go and learn how to use the computer, start going to night schools. But at that time, it would have been too late for some people because they just lost their jobs. It's going to happen again today. In this dispensation, people are going to lose their jobs, not because they did anything wrong, but because they couldn't get their minds to accept the fact that there's a new normal.
Yeah, so some have also likened this new normal to what the expectation of the fourth industrial revolution. A lot of people have argued initially that the fourth industrial revolution has come to change the way things are done. But while people are still grappling with getting to key into the fourth industrial revolution, now here is a totally new terrain for a lot of businesses. How will this work?
Okay, it's quite unfortunate that we have found, unfortunate for those who are not prepared, that we have found ourselves in this time and the season of the world. Take for instance, in the past, for there to be a change, something new, it took a decade. But now things change every single day because of technology. So the time it used for people to adapt has shrunk. It has reduced to the extent that we are in the speed age. We already know this, but that means decision-making, thought processes has got to be happening at the speed of light, as they say. So as I'm speaking to you, there's another revolution happening in 2030. It was predicted by Jack Ma, and it will happen. AI revolution, artificial intelligence revolution. And that is where pretty much robots take over. So what is happening now is taking us to that dispensation. Will robots take over? Yes, it will. That we can't deny it, but then we can prepare for it now. So for us to wait for this...
How do we get businesses in Africa, in Nigeria particularly, to prepare for this?
Oh, fantastic. Like I said, it starts from the changing of the way we think, accepting the fact that we have to change, number one. Number two, we now begin to quickly learn. Now, for instance, we run an academy that we teach businesses on how to migrate from where they are to the future. Now, you don't have to wait to get into our academy. Things have been made so easy. You simply go to Google and you just type how do I use Zoom. So this is let me break down the functional way you can do it. Let me go as low as a mechanic. So how will a mechanic take advantage of the connected revolution, where you can connect to people, because people will no longer be able to go out to where they think is not safe. So if you're a mechanic, you have to put up a safe environment, use your camera, take a picture of that environment, and then put it up on Instagram or Facebook, and then you show your clients that you have an enabling environment for us to look after your vehicle. So that social media becomes a leveraging tool, because people are now wondering, so which mechanic am I going to go to that is safe? But because a lot of people are going to be pushed into the social space, they'll begin to see your advertisements, they'll begin to see what you have to offer, and with that, they say, okay, hey, let me patronize this person. So have you seen how there's going to be a shift? Because customers wouldn't come to your offices again. For them to make any decision, it has to be from a remote perspective. All right? Pardon me for this. So it has to be from a remote perspective. So once you get that enabling structure, where you cannot fix cars online. You can't do that, right? But then you can prepare your business, model it in that way that people who are already online will be able to see what you have to offer, and that begins to drive your clients down to you. That's one way, especially for those businesses that cannot, operate online. And again, I've made mention about this. The hospitality industry, the industry where hotel, where you make food, restaurants and stuff.
Before you get into all of that, there's this school of thought that so much jobs will be lost, with this new normal. People who hitherto would have been present to carry out certain functions, for instance, in a shopping mall and all of that, would lose their jobs. Yes. So how do you think this could be mitigated, the impact of this?
You can't, from my own point of view, we have different schools of thoughts. But the school of thought we come from in our academy is become an entrepreneur. The days of having a job is over. we've heard about it over and over and over again. It's happening before our very eyes. We've been saying this since 2016 that people should prepare. I mean, God created us to become entrepreneurs or to be entrepreneurs. Our great-grandparents never worked for anybody. They were in the farm as entrepreneurs, all right, bringing out proceeds, and then they use the trade by barter. Your father is in the farm bringing out yam, mine is tomato or whatever, and then they exchange. They weren't working for anybody. That is how the human being has been designed. But there was a shift along the line when the oligarchs, they came together, the rich, they came together and say, how do we keep people less potentially visionary so that they can work for us? All these things happened in the past, and they brought the system of work. There are a lot of things around that. But then this is the revolution that we are on that will favor entrepreneurs. So if you have a job, begin to think of how to break out from that job mentality and start up something for your own. And it's very easy. All right, that's what we teach now. Now, how easy is it? Because why I'm saying this is people that had jobs, as I'm speaking to you now, robots are already taking over people's jobs. Union Bank deployed the first banking robotics in Nigeria in 2018, and more banks will follow suit. In Amazon has robots moving products from one part of their building to another. Human beings used to do that, but robots are not doing them, and those human beings are out of job. It will begin to happen in Africa, Nigeria. Dangote is thinking about such things. All these big companies are thinking of employing these technologies. So the first thing is the mindset. Move away from job security and become an entrepreneur. It is not easy to be an entrepreneur, but now the structure and the architecture of this revolution makes it easy for you to be an entrepreneur. So what are you good at? If you're good at anything, you could create a course online to do that and put up your course online, and a lot of people will come in, especially if you have results, and then people will pay. It could be a token, 1,000, 5,000, to be part of your course, and then money continues to enter your purse. So this is where you begin to think on how to drive. So my take on how to mitigate is, as quickly as possible, people need to begin to think entrepreneurial.
Do you think this new business model is sustainable?
100% it is. It is because the infrastructure is there, the platforms are there. We have the blue chip companies that have the money, the backbones, and then they can still be operating in the industrial economy and sustain themselves. But the smaller businesses may not be able to sustain themselves where the big players are. So, but the big players are also willing to pump in money to harness the new dispensation we've found ourselves in, which is Zoom. Take, for instance, schools are now doing online trainings. I think on Sunday, Zoom even crashed because there were so many people who were using Zoom just about the same time. What we heard is not yet confirmed, that churches decided to, do their services on Zoom, and that pretty much crashed it. It's from 9 a.m. I have trainings that I conduct on Zoom. I couldn't use that platform on Sunday. What does that tell you? There's a migration from offline to online, and the beauty of online is you can get a whole lot of things done even at the comfort of your home without stepping out. All right, so is it sustainable? Yes, it is sustainable, and whether we like it or not, it will be made to be sustainable. Do you know why? Companies like Zoom, companies like Netflix, they must make sure, these are billion-dollar companies now, they must make sure it is the stable new normal. So what we teach is, please, whatever you want to do this period, concentrate on light asset business models. Do not concentrate on heavy asset business models. I'm going to give you an instance, for instance. Yeah. Look at DSTV is a heavy asset business model because it can't easily scale. Take, for instance, you want to start a DSTV company in Ghana. The capital you have to pump in, the infrastructure you have to put in place, right? It's heavy asset business model. But then light asset business model is something like Netflix. Netflix is almost the same thing as DSTV. But it's so light that they can operate in the whole world without spending so much. All I need is a TV that is Netflix enabled, my MiFi that I have network, I connect, I begin to watch. But for me to do that with DSTV, I have to buy the decoder, I have to buy the dish, I have to run cables. Those are heavy assets, right? So any business you're doing right now, begin to think light asset business so that the rich blue chip companies can run the heavy asset business model, they can survive in that space.
Okay, so I must ask this very important question. What strategies do you think should be employed by MSMEs to ensure that they thrive under these conditions?
Training, human capital, resource training to change people's minds, and very fast. It has to be done in a fast manner, because using these new tools before our face, especially the social media. And guess what? You don't really get to pay so much for these things. For instance, you could actually run an Instagram meeting or interaction free of charge. All you need is a network. So the first thing is training, massive training on how to get people used to the fact that we're not going back to the old way it used to be, that there's a new way. So massive training, number one, and then getting people to understand that there's a plethora of opportunities that abound in this sector. Why? Because in this sector, you're no longer a local player. You're actually a global player. Because you can access Australia, you can access Europe, you can access America just from where you are. You don't need to fly to those areas. So one of the things that people have to take out is training, serious, consistent training on how to. Let me say this off the record. My mom she does a lecturing job now. All right, just to help out. But now in the school that she is with, they are now migrating to social platforms and online platforms. And then she called me, hey, I don't know how to use Zoom, because they said that we're going to meet on Zoom. So I had to, put her through on how to use Zoom, and then she went and the meeting was successful. But I mean, this is my mom. She's very old, but then if you look at that, if you see her, you know that she's young at heart. But then how can you be young at heart without understanding time and season? So I told her, Mommy, this is not change. There's no going back, all right? Yeah, so that is how it is. Whether you're old, whether you're young, you just have to keep up.
Yes. Anybody
that refuses to keep up, imagine the lecturers that know how to deliver offline in the classroom with people listening to them, and then you're telling them to lecture on Zoom, and they don't know how to use Zoom. What do you think will happen if they don't learn how to use Zoom? They lose the job.
All right, then what do you hope to see with MSMEs going forward as we battle this coronavirus thing?
Going forward. I see a lot of toothing period, a lot of trial and errors, trying the ones that will work and then leaving the ones that don't work and then concentrating on the ones that work. I see a lot of money being lost, all right, because some of the small businesses will try portfolios or architectures that may not work in our terrain, all right? But then it is also part of the learning period. So let us brace ourselves. Some companies are going to lose money, but it's not the end of the world. But once you get it right, it begins to yield for you.
All right, so then that's on one hand. Do you also believe that there are businesses that cannot be moved online? Is it possible?
All businesses can be moved online, but then depending on what, because there are different chains of businesses, all right? Some have never been engaged in home deliveries. And home deliveries, for you to do home deliveries, you have to have presence online. For instance, how many restaurants can come to your house and cook for you? Can you afford that to happen? No. So restaurants have to be in the location to cook, right? But then people may not necessarily be coming to restaurants to eat the way they used to eat because they're afraid of what is happening. So now that restaurant needs to have a presence online, for instance, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, wherever it is, so that when the masses, those who are going through these social medias and they see, oh, so this guy's, I love this, and then you contact them, they should have a mechanism whereby he say, hey, we can deliver to your office, we can deliver to your house. So that means their presence is also necessary to be boosted. So all businesses has got to go online, but then depending on the level of your productivity in the business. Some businesses will go fully online, but some will use the online platform to
Okay, thank you very much. I've been speaking with a startup expert and a business consultant, Obianefo Esimai. Many thanks for being with us on the program today.
You're welcome.
Now let's look at the capital market performance in the past week with Bosede Ebel. Tell us what's been happening.
Hello and welcome to the market review segment. Stock market report for the week ended 15th May 2020 saw a total turnover of 926.41 million shares worth 9.7 billion naira in 20,910 deals traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange. The NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization both depreciated by 0.72% to close the week at 23,871.33 and 12.4 trillion naira. All other indices finished lower, with the exception of NSE Main Board, NSE CG, NSE Pension, NSE ASEM, NSE AfriBank Value, NSE Merry Growth, NSE Consumer Goods, and NSE Oil and Gas indices, which appreciated. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 676 million shares valued at 5 billion naira traded in 10,753 deals. The conglomerate industry followed with 71.1 million shares worth 399.5 million naira. The third place was the consumer goods industry with a turnover of 48.8 million shares worth 1.5 billion naira in 3,497 deals. The top three equities were AVN Holdings PLC, Guaranty Trust Bank PLC, and Zenith Bank PLC. They jointly accounted for 335 million shares worth 4 billion naira in 4,885 deals. Exchange traded products indicates a total turnover of 146,484 units valued at 7.3 million naira traded in 13 deals, as well as a total of 7,878 units of federal government bonds valued at 9 million naira traded in 12 deals. In the price movement chart, 32 equities appreciated in price, 28 equities depreciated in price, while 102 equities remained unchanged. On the global scene, major markets in Asia were little changed Monday as U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said the economy stateside may need a coronavirus vaccine to fully recover. Shanghai Composite went up 0.24% to 2,875.42. Hang Seng Index was 0.58% higher as of its final hour of trading, and Nikkei closed 0.48% higher at 20,133.73. European stocks traded sharply as investors' confidence rises cautiously, with lockdown restrictions around the world being lifted. Major U.S. stocks rose as investors weighed comments by Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell on the state of the economy against signs of optimism as states began to reopen for business over the weekend. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures showed an opening gain of 0.25%. S&P 500 and Nasdaq Futures also pointed to gains at the open. Most African stocks also traded higher, with Nairobi's All-Share, South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, and Ghana's GSE Composite Index posting gains. And that was the market review for 15th May. I am Bossede Abel.
Welcome back, and that's the size of our package. Please remember to stay safe while you practice your social distancing. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji. Ensure to keep the mails coming on those media handles displayed on your screen. Till next week, do have yourself a wonderful week ahead.